kind of questions do they have?
I was working with one of our volunteers, this past week in Henniger, and kind of walking them through. We had a pretty heavy forward-leaning white oak next to a cabin. It's probably close to 12-inch DBH. The root flare had kind of come up out of the ground a little bit from the wind. The tree relative to the root ball was upright, but it had already started to come out of the ground a little bit on the backside, and
Mhm.
so, we did the five-step felling plan, look for hazards, anything overhead, trip hazards, stuff like that. We established the lean. There's virtually no side lean, and all of it was forward lean in the direction of lay. And so, then we established escape route and everything. And one thing that really stood out to the volunteer, though, and I kind of pointed this out beforehand. When you're setting up your notch, some guys like to cut the horizontal cut first and then come down, diagonally. I've typically always done the opposite, like a lot of people do. It's like 50-50 probably from what I've seen. Guys, cutting the diagonal first, and that's what I like to do. And I explain that to him, so he can look down the curve of that diagonal cut and see when his bar, when he's making the horizontal cut, when it approaches that curve, you can always prevent a bypass
Mhm.
by watching down that curve. And that was the first time, I explained it to him a couple of times before, just out in the field. This is kind of the first time that he had an opportunity to really put all of this into practice. That was one thing that really, really stuck out to him, because he had asked before, do you do the vertical cut first, or the horizontal cut, or the diagonal cut, and I said, a lot of people kind of feel like it's a personal preference, but for me, I can aim it just as well doing the diagonal cut versus the horizontal cut. But the advantage of doing the diagonal first is the fact that you can watch for that bypass potential. First time that really stuck with him, you see that light bulb go off, and he's like, "Wow, that's a really cool trick." Frequently is which cut do you start with?
Mhm.
And I always kind of push the diagonal one first, just for that reason of being able to watch for that bypass.
That you can do it either way, and I see a lot of guys who've practiced, for years with the horizontal cut and then the top cut, and the same thing with the Humboldt. They do the horizontal top cut first and then the undercut. The only thing is that if you do the horizontal cut first, whether on a common or Humboldt or open face, you've got to basically bend over to see it match back up. If you don't
Mhm.
change your positions, it will match. That's how the saws are made. Doing the top cut first, it helps you to be able to be in a standing or more comfortable position to use the sights on the saw for your target. And then also, if you don't change your arm and foot positions, when you do that top cut down and you're on target with your sight line, and you're using that top handle, if it was straight up and down at zero, if you kind of get that, and I'll go this way, if it's straight up and down at zero, that if you hold in that top handle of the saw, it angles it to 30, 35 degrees. And so now when you cut down into the tree, however far that you want to go, to get your length of the hinge or face notch, then when you come in on this side, as long as you don't change your arm and your feet positions, as you come in, it matches up. And you've got 70 degrees there.